Hello, professionals. My name is Rico Aladdin, and I am the founder of Professional Lunch. Today, we have the CEO of Golden Path Solution with us in the studio. It's such an honor to have you here, sir. I'm going to give Patrick a chance to introduce himself and what he does. Patrick,
Yeah.
welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Yeah.
Please tell us who you are
yeah.
and what you do.
Yep. So my name is Patrick. I live here in Fargo. I've been here forever. In full transparency, I graduated from Moorhead State University. So hopefully that doesn't disqualify.
No. You're fine. You're fine.
So I'm the CEO and founder of Golden Path Solutions. Golden Path Solutions is a company, a relatively new company. Became an official company in 2019. Based here in Fargo, and essentially what we do is we try to help students find career paths that are a great fit for them and get connected with employers who are desperately looking for them, and help employers develop future workforce, which we all know is a big issue that's top of mind right now for a lot of employers.
Yes, wonderful. When I met you, when you tell me about the company, the first thought that came to my mind was to invite you on the show and talk to the students that are watching the show on campus and even those who are going to be watching it. So tell us a little bit more about your background and how did you decide to start this company?
Yeah, it's a good question. The origin story. So I was at Microsoft for a long. I've had a very varied career. I think I've done everything from look for oil in the Gulf of Mexico to manage a restaurant, a pizza restaurant. I got into the software company back in the late 1990s and then was at Microsoft for 10 years. And after that, I started a consulting organization. And one of the things that I thought about, or one connection point in all of my career, is learning and problem solving. That seems to be the consistent thing that I did in all of those different jobs. They were just about different things. In about 2017, I started seeing a problem that I thought maybe I could solve, which led to Golden Path. How do we help employers talk about the amazing opportunities that they have at their companies and find the skill sets that they need, but knowing that employers are having a hard time getting connected with students, and that students might not even know that those employers have these amazing opportunities that these employers need to fill. And at the same time, how do we help students think about their future? How do we help them find careers that they're going to love, that take advantage of what they're good at? But also, how do we help them potentially pay for school and find jobs and all that? It seemed like at the current time, there's this kind of bet that everybody makes that I'm going to go to school, and when I graduate, that's when I'll find a job, and hopefully it'll work out. And employers are kind of like, when we need a position, we'll post for it, and we'll then hire people and train them. What if we could get those two groups connected much, much earlier? Like even before a student has graduated from high school or just started school, college. When I started thinking about that, that was the genesis of Golden Path.
Okay, wonderful. So, you know, I want students to realize that sometimes it's not what you went to school for that determine your path to success. So tell us a little bit more about what did you learn in college, what was your major, and how it gets translated in what you are doing today.
I graduated from Moorhead State University with a major in English and a minor in mathematics.
Wow.
Believe it or not. I was one of those students that I loved learning, and so I did everything. I think I started out as a computer science major. And I always joke about the fact that I changed majors because I didn't want to sit behind a laptop or a computer screen all the time, which is exactly what I do now with emails and everything else going on. But I started out in computer science. I changed to like philosophy. I was pre-med. I just loved everything. And I ended up thinking that, you know, an English and a math kind of combination was unique. English taught me how to communicate and how to articulate ideas and concepts, and then math taught me how to think logically and problem solve. And if you told me that I would be doing what I'm doing now with that degree, I would have thought you were crazy. But when I think back to what I was learning in college, it was literally, how do you learn? How do you read? How do you communicate with others? And also, how do you think logically about a problem and figure it out? So I actually think those two areas of study for me were perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, helping student and helping employer, bridging the gap. So what has been the reception like, you know, from employees when you bring them this idea?
Well, everybody's super excited about it. I think from an employer perspective, one of the challenges that they have is like, how do you get connected with students in a scalable way? So, you know, a lot of employers might have a relationship with a school or maybe 3 or 4 schools.
Yeah.
And they'll send people out to career fairs, or maybe they'll come to that school and they'll guest speak. But they tend to focus on the larger schools, and I'm talking like high schools.
Yep.
They'll focus on the larger schools, but they might not be focusing on the more rural schools that have, you know, fewer students or maybe are harder to get to, or maybe the employer doesn't even know how to get in touch with that school. They don't know anybody there. But there's amazing talent in those communities and in those smaller schools. So employers are excited because this gives them a way to connect with students more scalably and even potentially across the state of North Dakota. And students are excited because they get to learn more about employers and what they're looking for. They can see themselves in certain careers and see if it might be a fit for them. And in some cases, like I said, they might even be able to get help with tuition, whether it be through a sponsorship or taking advantage of a program. The state of North Dakota offers different programs that can help subsidize the students' tuition under certain conditions. So the reception has been positive. And then schools are excited about it because at the end of the day, schools want to be developing students for whatever skills they need to be successful after they graduate. So if schools can hear firsthand from employers on what skills are needed, if they can have better ways of connecting with employers to invite them to a class or an event or whatever, then everybody's kind of benefiting. And yeah, so the reception has been really positive.
Well, you know, at the beginning of the show, I wanted to mention that our show today will be a little bit different, simply because of what you do with your company. Right, I want the student to know what they can get from going on the site, you know, how they can connect with an employer, what, you know, if there's an opportunity for them out there to pay for college. As you know, college is very expensive. So tell us, how can students benefit from the service that you are providing right now when it comes to paying for college?
So our focus so far has really been on high schools. And now we're starting to think about higher ed. And so students that are already in, you know, going to NDSU or going to NDSCS or whatever, how can they take advantage of this? And in some ways, what we're still trying to do with all students is education. How do we help them understand what's out there? How do we help them understand their skills? And then how do we potentially get them connected to employers? So like right now, students, they can go to our website. It's https compass.goldenpath.net. And they can basically create a login. We have a lot of different schools that they can select from. I think we have NDSU set up as a school. But a lot of our focus is looking at the experiences that a student had, not only here, but also in high school. So we've got all the schools in North Dakota are there. We have a school called Anytown USA, which is kind of our generic school. And what students can do is they can put in information about what they've done, what are their hobbies, their activities that they're in. We have predefined lists that they select from, what classes did they take. And then they can learn about their skills, and then they can learn about companies that are looking for people with those skills. So for example, Bobcat has a manufacturing engineer that's in there. And they love students that are at NDSU because that program helps students understand what Bobcat needs. Marvin Windows is in there. We've got a lot of different organizations, different industries, manufacturing, healthcare, technology, software engineers, Microsoft, you know, just Bushel. So we've got about 200 employers that we're working with that are engaged in our system in different ways, and we're looking to grow that. And yeah, that's something that students can, you know, they can learn from it. They can check out the assessment, see what we recommend in terms of jobs, and hopefully learn something and maybe even develop a connection to an employer.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. I have to ask though, now the student connect with the employer directly, or they go through you and then you go to the employer?
We actually kind of accommodate both.
Okay.
So for students that are under 18, so like a high school student, we don't see any of their information unless they opt in to be, we call it being searchable. And there's a consent process that we follow. For students that are over 18, we can potentially ask them if they're interested in getting connected with an employer. And then we can ask them, you know, if we think that there's a match, we can say, we think you'd be a great fit for this employer. Would you be okay if we introduced you? But we also build what are called career profiles. And in those, basically, we share information about a career with the student, and then in there we give the student information on how they can learn more. So it could be that a student could reach out to a company or go to their website or know a little bit more about the job and then reach out and, you know, I'd like to learn more, and then maybe start developing a relationship. We actually, for high schoolers, we just introduced a new thing called work-based learning. And for college students, internships, mentorships, apprenticeships, those are the types of things that we associate sometimes with work-based learning. That's essentially an opportunity for a student to get real-world experience with an employer. And our hope is that that real-world experience, not only are they potentially getting paid and getting on-the-job training, but they're starting to develop a relationship between the employer and the student that could potentially lead then to a longer-term employment.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so I'm so glad you are here today sharing this information to students that are at the school, and I'm excited of how much they will benefit from it. So when we come back here, we're going to talk about some of the things that Patrick loves about what he does, because what he's doing not only going to serve a student, but professionals out there who may need help paying for college, and that's a big one. We're going to talk to him about what he loves about what he does. We'll be right back. CEO of Golden Path Solutions. We are talking about how the company can serve students at NDSU, MSUM, NDSCS, M-State, all students, even high school students in all North Dakota. So Patrick, it's a pleasure to have you here. So let's talk about some of the types of jobs and industries and careers that, you know, Golden Path Solution can help people with.
Yep. So I think this is where there's a lot of exciting opportunities. Sometimes people will ask, well, does this apply for 2-year jobs or 4-year jobs or or degrees? And the reality is it could be any of those things. And so really, employers have different needs in terms of their future workforce. Some might not need any higher ed. They might just need certification or training that they can provide, whereas other organizations might need 2-year or 4-year degrees. And what we're starting to see, especially in some of these newly forming industries that are going to be hugely beneficial for North Dakota, think precision ag, energy, new types of energy, carbon sequestration, all those sorts of things. We're starting to hear more about customizable degrees or new programs that institutions like NDSU are trying to figure out how to put together to serve the future workforce needs that maybe we don't have today because these technologies are so new. M-State just announced a program that they're going to be doing to help people do maintenance on electric vehicles. So it's really interesting when you think about students and how they think about future careers. They might not even know about some of these jobs because we don't even know about these jobs because these industries are evolving so quickly. And I think that's where this can be really exciting too. You think about initiatives like the Grand Farm, which is just broke ground in Castleton last week. If they need a certain type of person to support the autonomous work that they're doing, or Grand Sky up in Grand Forks, if we can help students understand that these are hugely influential, impactful jobs for our state, but they also are kind of on the cutting edge of technology, and help them understand what skills are needed, then we can help get students interested in those programs, and ultimately get connected with those companies that could be the future of our state. So yeah, it's really exciting when you think about the different types of industries. But I also don't want to forget about our classic manufacturing or healthcare, some of those industries that have been around for a while, because in some ways they are in desperate need of workers, just like these new industries are. So how do we make this work for all of those companies and all of those industries? It's been really exciting to be kind of part of that conversation.
Wonderful. So can you share one of a story with me of, maybe as some students or, an employer that your company have helped?
Yeah. So there's 2 that I'll share. One, we were working with Bobcat on a welder. Okay. Because they need welders. Yeah. And I don't think students understand that welding is a huge opportunity. It can be something that you can make over 6 figures doing welding, believe it or not, because they're in high demand. We have this process where we actually interview people in the job to figure out what are the skills needed, what's the day in the life, and that's what we share with students. We were talking to this welder in Bismarck, and they were talking about the welding that they do almost as an art form. And the guy we were talking to basically said he can look at a machine and he can tell instantly if it was one that he did a weld on, because he almost has a signature style associated with it. And so that was really cool.
That's interesting.
And so we get to learn about that. We get to understand and kind of get exposed to things like that, which is super fun. Another example is we actually had a student that He was a junior in West Fargo. Wasn't sure what he wanted to do, but he really loved working with his hands. And there's this job called machining. We got him connected with an employer. He ended up going to NDSCS, getting his school paid for. We took advantage of a program that North Dakota runs called the North Dakota Career Builders Program, where the state of North Dakota will help pay tuition that employers are willing to contribute to a student. And he basically got a 2-year degree for free for him. And now he's got a job that he loves, working for a company. And between the first and second year of his degree, he was able to work for this company, so start to get to know people, get to know relationships, and different things like that. So those have been some really exciting wins. When we go to classes and we talk to them about careers and we're explaining to them about things, engineering, a lot of times we'll go into a classroom and somebody will say, I want to be an engineer, but that's as far as they go. And so we get to talk to them about, what does a manufacturing engineer do? What does a process support engineer do at Marvin Windows? There's all these different flavors of engineering. How do we help students understand that and help them make better decisions? And listening to their questions is always super fun.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, that's something, that's an interest for that we have with Professional Lunch also. I find out even at NDSU here, a lot of times when I talk to students, I'm asking them questions they might have for engineer. They are in the major, they're about to graduate, but they don't know, what they're gonna be doing as an engineer. So I thought that was really pretty interesting, and I'm glad you touched on that. So tell me, what is the biggest challenge that you think that students face, either having decided on a major that they don't know what they're gonna be doing? I mean, how does that play out when they are looking for a job?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I went through it, certainly. I don't know if you went through it, but you go into school and maybe you don't necessarily know what you want to do. And that's actually okay. I actually think we need to be careful not to over-promise what we do, and people are still going to want to try different things and try different paths. Yeah. But I think what we can do is help students understand that there are different paths, that if they have a skill, let's say they're a thinker and a learner, that there are literally hundreds of jobs that need that skill. And let's take some of the pressure off of students to try to figure out what is the one thing I should do, because the reality might be there are hundreds of things you can do as long as you hone that skill. And I kind of go back to myself. I graduated with an English major. I remember thinking at the time, and everybody would make jokes, the only career option I had was basically to go and teach, or the joke was, work at a fast food restaurant. And that wasn't true. Like, I could have been a journalist. I could have been an investigative reporter. I could have been a teacher. I could have done, or I actually could be in communications. There are so many different things that I could do. And now that I'm in the workforce, there are so many different jobs that need those skills to be a good communicator. I actually might say that being an English major was one of the best things for the email age, being able to write clear, concise emails. So students, I want them to think broader. Don't put so much pressure to figure out the one thing you can do. Just figure out what you're good at, and then figure out what are all the different jobs that need that thing, that are willing to pay me to do what I love to do.
Wonderful.
And I think that's really important. And the other thing I would say too for students is to explore. Try different things. I think in high school, a lot of times, students might just be like, I need to take this class and do the AP class and all this stuff to have the best resume possible for when I graduate. But really do take time to try different classes to see if you might like something that maybe you didn't think that you would like, just sitting there. Try it out, see if it's something that's interesting. Try different activities. Maybe take a summer job that is doing something that you're not quite familiar with, because those experiences actually will help you. Even if you like it, it might help you choose a different career path. And if you don't like it, that actually can be just as useful, knowing what you don't want to do. So, but just don't sweat it.
Okay. So is Golden Path your first entrepreneurial business?
No, actually, it's my second. So I was with Microsoft until about 2012, and then I started Blue Fire Consulting. I must like companies with colors in the names. I didn't even realize that until like a year ago. And Blue Fire Consulting, kind of going back again to my background, I love to learn and I love to solve problems. So with Blue Fire Consulting, that was a super fun job for me because I got to work with companies, everything from working with Maersk, the shipping company. We did some projects for them. Abercrombie and Fitch, Bobcat, did a lot of consulting work with Bobcat. Just learning different company cultures and different problems that they have, and learning more about their industries, and then trying to help them figure out solutions. And honestly, I could probably confidently say that all of those experiences, working with different organizations, different companies, really helped me come up with Golden Path Solutions.
Yeah.
And I love that about my job right now. The fact that we can go talk to welders, and then go talk to nurses, and then go talk to software engineers, and then go talk to engineers, manufacturing engineers. We just get to talk and learn from so many different people, tool and die makers, machinists. It's just really, really fun.
So this is my next question. What's the biggest challenge you face as a CEO of the company?
Well, I think, we're a smaller company, obviously, we've just started out. So I do think a lot about, what's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now? Do we have the right resources in place? Obviously funding is always something that we think about. We're actually going to be going to our first big conference in Las Vegas. And before, when I would work for Microsoft, going to a conference like that was no big whoop. It's like, it's great, we're going to be able to go out and have nice dinners and all that stuff. Now, as a CEO, I have to think about the budget for that, and can we afford it, and is it worth it, and what's our ROI going to be? So it's a different mindset, and I think that's one thing that I think about a lot. And I think, for Golden Path specifically, I think adoption is really important. So are we providing the value that we say we are going to provide to students and to employers? And are we meeting their needs? And are we receiving feedback, and are we acting on that feedback? I want our company to be something that is always meeting the needs of our customers and those that we serve. And so how do we get that feedback? How do we include their feedback in our roadmap? All that sort of thing. There's a joke, and I just shared this morning. For anybody in your audience that is a software developer, somebody told me, if you don't look back at the first product you built and were embarrassed by it, then you spent too much time developing it. And I think back to the first version of Compass when we released it, and I'm just like, man, that was terrible. And I feel like that constant innovation and that constant improvement is really important. And then how do we basically build a roadmap? And I hope that I look back on our product right now. I hope 2 years I look back on what we've built right now and think, oh man, that was terrible. We could have done so much better. I think that shows that we're constantly evolving.
Yes.
But being able to fund that and being able to respond to our customers' needs and all that, I think that's what's probably on the top of my mind. But I also think it's a really fun challenge to try to overcome.
Yeah, so talking about that, I want to follow up with, where do you see the company in 3-5 years?
Yeah.
5 years.
Well, first of all, I want to know that we nailed it in North Dakota. Like, we just did some visioning work with our team. I believe that any company that wants to be open 2, 3, or 4 years from now, any company in North Dakota should be part of our platform, where they should at least be connecting with students in schools, because the students of today are going to be the workforce of tomorrow. And I would tell your audience, for all of the students that are watching, that you are the future. Like, employers need you. You're very important, because you're going to be in high demand, because everybody in North Dakota needs workers. So I would like for every single company to be thinking about that and being on our platform. And I also want students to think about us in a very positive way as a tool in their toolbox. Sometimes, especially with high schoolers, career planning can be something that an adult is telling you to do, or a career advisor is saying, go in and do this survey. And students, a lot of times, like especially freshmen, sophomore, they may not think that's really important, but it is, because it's coming. And I really want our platform to be something that they find useful, so they are going in and wanting to do it, versus having to have a counselor or a career advisor or a work-based learning coordinator saying, remember to go in and check it out. But at the end of the day, like, we will gauge our success on connection. Are we connecting students and employers? Are we connecting employers and schools? Are we creating an ecosystem that all these groups are thriving in, and we were part of that? I think that's ultimately 3 to 5 years. I want to look back on that. And then expansion, adding additional regions, adding additional audiences, helping other types of people looking for careers. We've talked a little bit about could we take what we've built and could it apply to middle schoolers that might have different experiences that we could use to help guide them on careers. So yeah, those are some things that we think about for the future.
Wonderful. So is the company right now in all North Dakota, in the whole state? So do you still have region that you are looking at and expanding to?
Yep. So right now, through a really great partnership that we've got with North Dakota Career and Technical Education, we have an integration with a tool that's been used in the state for, gosh, over 15 years called Are You Ready? And with that integration, we are now available in every high school in North Dakota. So every high school student in North Dakota has access to this. We're talking to higher ed, NDSCS, NDSU. We've done some pilot work with students, and we're actually setting it up. Like I said, students can just log in and kind of play around with it and put in their high school experiences and the classes that they're taking in college and see kind of how that makes recommendations. They can learn about careers. For work-based learning specifically, the state of North Dakota has put a lot of energy into wanting work-based learning opportunities available for every high school student before they graduate. And then clearly in higher ed, there are tools that help connect you with internships, like Handshake and different things. So we want to really make sure that that's happening, and the state is putting a lot of energy into supporting kind of what we're trying to do in terms of work-based learning. And schools honestly love it, because if a student can have an experience with a company, maybe over the summer, come back to school, talk about it, share with their friends. Actually, if the teacher can tweak the curriculum to kind of accommodate whatever that skill is that needs to be taught in that industry, then everybody, again, is winning. So yeah.
The way you talk about it, I always ask professionals, do they love what do you love what you do?
Yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Can you tell?
Yes.
Yeah. We get to work with the best of everybody. I mean, we get to, on one day, I might be able to be speaking with, like today, was able to speak with school professionals, kind of have it speak to a student audience through this. I'll be speaking with RDO Equipment, a very significant manufacturer, this afternoon. So it's like getting to speak with different audiences that all have different problems that they're trying to solve and trying to figure out how do we connect them all together. Like, who gets a job like that?
That's good.
It's pretty sweet.
That's good. So what's the best advice you ever received as you are, in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Oh man, that's a tough one. There's a lot of really great advice. I actually think the most important thing for us, for Golden Path Solutions, was just talking to as many people as we can and just learning about what are other people doing, getting feedback on our product. I must have had, it'd be fun to look back. I save every presentation we do, I save that presentation so I remember. If I talked to you a year ago, I can go back and see what was the slide deck that I used when I talked to you. And I can actually see the evolution of our company by looking at the presentations that I do. But every conversation, you get an idea, or you hear something new, or you make a connection, what you do. So just do that. If you've got an idea, vet it out a little bit, talk to people, but then really start just creating your network and setting up meetings and talking to people. But on the flip side, also stay true to what it is you're really looking to do. You'll get a lot of advice and a lot of feedback, and a lot of people will tell you should do this or that or the other thing. And you need to be willing to pivot sometimes. You might not have the best idea. You maybe need to tweak it, but also kind of stay true to what you're really trying to achieve, I think is important.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what advice do you have for students out here right now looking at watching this and listening to you?
Yep. I would say, again, take advantage of the resources that are available to you. If you want to check out Compass, do that. If you're thinking about careers, there's great career services that are here to help you. Talk to employers, go to career fairs, be proactive about how you connect with them. I can tell you, when I talk to employers and we go to career fairs, especially for high school, one of the things that almost always that employers really appreciate is students asking them challenging questions about their business. Like, sometimes it's kind of like trying to get a student to open up is painful, but if you are looking for an opportunity and you're hungry and you want to get there and you want to make a connection and you want to learn more about their job, go for it. and talk to people. I would say students talking to entrepreneurs like me or people like you that have large networks, or even talking to employers that you might want to work for, be tenacious. You know, if you get turned down, just try again. Really keep trying, and honestly, it'll pan out eventually. Because people like talking about their companies. They like talking about their jobs. I've not talked to a single person where I was like, I'd like to learn more about your career. They're like, I'm too busy. You know, they might say, I don't have time right now, but I'd love to set it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes students, I think, can be intimidated by that. You know, talk to your mayor. If you want to learn what it's like to be in politics, reach out to the mayor and ask him. You know, they love that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Any last word? Because you're on Professional Lunch platform right now. Any last words you wanna?
Well, first of all, I think this is awesome. I think this is a great venue. Thank you so much for letting me join. And I would just say, you know, like I said, we are on that entrepreneurial journey, and it's been a blast. And I'm sure we will have challenges that will come up and things that we need to figure out. But having communities like this, opportunities to be able to speak to you and to your audience, thank you for those of you watching for spending some time with us. But just have fun. I actually think that's probably one of the biggest things. If you're going to do something, figure out what it is you like to do, and then just figure out how to get somebody to pay you for it.
Yes.
And you will thrive. You will rise up the ranks. You will do well because you're passionate about it.
Yes, wonderful. That's great advice from Patrick, the CEO of Golden Path. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for being on the show today. Well, now this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. So have a great day.